Tuesday at 10.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
Summer is a great time to relax with a good book. I'm Erin O'Neill, host of NEPM's Book Club. We've got our new pick, Telephone by Percival Everett. It tells the story of a perpetually dissatisfied geologist who returns home from a desert field trip to find his world crumbling. Give it a read and then join us to chat about it. Our next virtual meeting is July 21st. Sign up at nepm.org/book club.
Connecting Point on NEPM is brought to you by Berkshire Museum in Pittsfield, presenting Art of the Hills, Visual Evidence, a juried art exhibition celebrating the creative culture of the region, highlighting the works of both emerging and established Berkshire-based artists. More information at berkshiremuseum.org.
Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture of a New England treasure as we explore the beauty, the artistry, and the history of Cape Cod.
The waves are always shaping, reshaping, building up, taking away. So every time you go to the beach, it's a rediscovery.
We'll pay a visit to the oldest continuous arts colony in America, Provincetown.
If you're here to go to the beaches or go out to the dunes, that's what the art was inspired from. The art is the connector between everything in Provincetown.
And we'll explore why the Cape has served as a destination and inspiration for so many.
You've got huge expanses going out. The ocean, incredible skies, the sand, the light is crazy beautiful.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make Cape Cod so special. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Saidalis Bauer. If you are one of hundreds of thousands of visitors to Cape Cod every summer, it's difficult to imagine a time when it was simply a home for settlers and fishermen. While it has drawn vacationers and artists to its shores for a long time, for many years this part of the Massachusetts coast was unprotected. That changed on August 7, 1961, when native son and then President John F. Kennedy formally signed into law the creation of the Cape Cod National Seashore. The new park set aside what would become more than 43,000 acres from the elbow of Chatham to the tip of Provincetown. Producer Dave Frazier explores the rich history of this area and how it invited visitors to experience a different kind of seaside, unpolished and undeveloped.
A grand place to be alone and undisturbed is how playwright Eugene O'Neill described the outer beaches of Cape Cod, a 40-mile stretch along the outside of the hooked elbow that shelters Cape Cod Bay.
This was probably one of the most treacherous areas along the East Coast because of the way Cape Cod sticks out.
I had no idea, living in Chatham here as a kid, that there was this sort of wider Cape Cod.
The waves are always shaping, reshaping, building up, taking away. So every time you go to the beach, it's a rediscovery.
When people go out to the dunes or to Race Point or Herring Cove and you watch a sunset or a sunrise, you've never seen anything like it.
Spending time on the outer beach can induce a feeling of enchantment that led visitors, especially writers and artists, to feel themselves reimagined while they were there. Literary giants like Eugene O'Neill, E.E. Cummings, Jack Kerouac, Mary Oliver, and perhaps most importantly, Henry Beston, whose 1928 book, The Outermost House, chronicled the outer beaches, dunes, wetlands, and harbors, and awoke Cape Codders to a landscape that needed protection.
He was out there in the middle of this beautiful natural setting that it had always appealed to him, but he never got to experience it. And the more he was out there, the more he fell in love with the place. So he had a house built out on what is now Coast Guard Beach. It had 10 windows. He said he had a rather amateurish enthusiasm for windows. I had 10. I was told by one of his friends that nature and writing were synonymous with him. He talked about the rhythms of the waves, how they came in threes. He was just so taken by that. And he said that the writing has to have rhythms, just like the waves.
The water has always been the Cape's calling card. Fishing built towns like Truro and Provincetown in the mid-19th century. By 1920, Cape Cod boasted just under 27,000 residents. By 1950, that number had nearly doubled. People wanted what the Cape offered, its rural character and its unfettered access to the sea. But in coming here, they changed the very thing they were seeking.
Cape Cod was at a crossroads in the 1950s for sure. Land was still available and still inexpensive, and there was a danger of development taking off and turning the place into more densely populated coastal areas. But at this point in the mid-1950s, there was still a 40-mile or so unbroken stretch of outer beach that, for the National Park Service, was enticing because it offered a lot of public recreation to people within a day's drive of this area.
In 1955, a first-term senator from Massachusetts sponsored a bill that would largely serve as the framework for the seashore legislation. That senator would become president, and in 1961 signed the bill into law creating the Cape Cod National Seashore. Some 3 to 4 million people visit the National Seashore every year. For a small fee during the summer months, anyone can have access to this pristine beach, its blue Atlantic, its long sands, and its commanding high bluffs. This isn't a gated property, it's there for all those who choose to come, which is what its creators had intended.
I've worked over 30 years at this National Seashore, and what I found here was that outer beach, that sense of solitude, that place to escape, and that is my go-to place. As park historian, I love the historic buildings, the lighthouses, the human stories, the dune shacks, but in my spare time and when I need a break from the busyness of working at a park, I go to the outer beach, especially on a foggy day or early morning or at sunset. That is a great place to reignite the passion of working at a national park.
The light and natural coastal beauty of the outer beach of Cape Cod has attracted tourists and inspired artists for over a century. And as such, it should come as no surprise to find out that this area is also the home to the oldest continuous arts colony in America. Producer Dave Frazier visits Provincetown to learn the history of this artistic community and to meet up with the Western Massachusetts artist who has been painting on the Outer Cape for close to 30 years.
When I look back on my life and I think, this is my job. I'm always telling people that, I'm at work right now.
I feel really fortunate. I get to go out and photograph, and every so often I step back and go, man, people are buying my work. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
With its incredible light and colorful surroundings, the outer beaches of Cape Cod have been attracting artists for over 100 years. At the tip, the town of Provincetown, an eclectic community that has been described as a place of contrasts, rugged and rural, with a vibrant town center. It simultaneously provides artists with opportunities for both solitude and socializing.
If you ask people if they know about Provincetown, Massachusetts, they'll usually say, oh, that's that gay place where people come for carnival and this and that. What I think a lot of people don't realize is that this is the oldest continuous art colony in America. No one else can say that except Provincetown. And when you cross that line into Provincetown, you've entered into an art mecca.
The tip of the Cape faces north, and that north light is what artists are always seeking. So if you go back when there were no artificial lights, artists would build studios with skylights and windows facing north to get that really even, beautiful light. I like really clean compositions. I don't like a lot of complication. So for me, it's about negative space. It's about getting the essence of what I'm seeing and trying to get the viewer to understand what I'm seeing. I mean, if it's quiet, I want it to be quiet. And if it's vibrant, it should be vibrant. People come here for art. And so just being here, I get to benefit from all the people that came before me. And there were, you know, big artists that came, playwrights and writers that came before me. It's just great to be in that sort of an environment.
To be an artist in Provincetown means you are part of a colony. Charles Webster Hawthorne opened his Cape Cod School of Art in the summer of 1899 and taught his plein air method right on the town's waterfront. Often as many as 100 people watched as he dramatically demonstrated his theory of color and effects of light on an object, something artists today still recognize.
The way the light bounces off the sand dunes and the sandbars on the bay, so you just get this abundance of sunlight hitting the area and then just spreading out, and it's beautiful. I like architecture and nature together, not just pure nature. If I paint a seascape, I tend to look for some architectural element in that, and I just love the combination. This is an attractive spot because you've got the sky, man-made structures, which I love, and the water and the reflections and the beach. You have all the elements to make a beautiful painting. I've painted this scene at sunrise, sunset. I've painted this scene and had people come and buy it right off my easel.
Yeah. Oh yeah! Greetings from Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Art is everywhere in this small 3-square-mile town at the tip of the Cape. And artists who come to Provincetown today are still looking at the same things that artists were looking at 100 or so years ago. How they depict it depends on their style and interpretation, but the landscape and the light remains the same.
Any place you go out into Provincetown, there's original artwork, whether it's a restaurant, one of the 50 or 60 galleries in this town. And if you're here to go to the beaches or go out to the dunes, that's what the art was inspired from. So the art is the connector between everything in Provincetown.
Outside of the hustle and bustle of its thriving downtown lies the outer dunes of Provincetown. Within this protected landscape, there are 19 shacks of various shapes and sizes that have drawn writers and artists to them and have served as the inspiration for many great works of American literature. We join producer Dave Frazier as he takes us on a tour of this historic region of the Outer Cape.
The dunes on the outer beach of Cape Cod were formed as a result of early settlers cutting down the trees. With nothing to hold the sandy soil in place, the land was shaped and eroded by each passing storm. When the dunes became part of the Cape Cod National Seashore, access was carefully restricted to minimize further damage. To see them, one must either hike in via one of the park's approved trails or be driven in by a guide from Arts Dune Tours, the only tour guide company that has allowed access to the dunes by vehicle.
It's always a treat out here because it's so different every trip, between the lighting, the clouds, the colors, the vegetation, the people's interest and the questions, you know, so between all of that, every single tour, every single day is different.
Rob Costa and his family have been taking people on tours of the dunes since 1946. His dad started the business after returning home from World War II.
He ended up buying a 1936 Ford Woody, and he started his own company because he loved it so much, you know, and he started running people out here in the dunes and giving them kind of a thrill ride.
Tucked into the dunes of Provincetown are a number of small shacks with a rich history. These dune shacks were originally constructed as life-saving huts for Coast Guardsmen in the late 1890s, but most were built in the 1920s and 30s and used by the artist colony in Provincetown. The shacks provided solitude and a chance for creative inspiration.
To go out to experience a dune shack is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's magical. For someone to give you the opportunity of solitude in the National Seashore, in one of the most beautiful places on earth, I can't imagine how you couldn't be inspired.
It's about a 2-mile walk through soft sand from your car to reach the dune shacks. They have no running water and no electricity. There are kerosene lamps for light and wells dug in the sand for hand-pumping drinking and washing water. One of the most famous early residents of the dune shacks was playwright Eugene O'Neill, but they have also drawn the likes of Tennessee Williams, Jackson Pollock, Norman Mailer, and E.E. Cummings. Today, several nonprofits in Provincetown help the National Park Service with summer residency programs.
If you want a clean composition, it's a great place to go because you've got huge expanses going out. This is about 5 o'clock in the morning, and what was great was that the moon and the moon setting and the sun rising were happening within like 10 minutes of each other. So the sun is just coming up and it's just hitting the top, and you can see it hitting the tips of the fence. So the sun is still on the way up, and the moon is, you know, on its way down. So that was kind of a nice bonus.
Rob Costa and his crew continues to introduce visitors to this backshore environment of Provincetown by way of his dune tours. This year, his company will celebrate 75 years. Inspiration and creativity seem to go hand in hand on the outer beach. Artists flock here for the solitude, the love of the land, and the creativity it inspires, and families still come and raise their children.
I took my mom on a dune tour many years ago. We drive by Ray Wells' shack, and she tells everybody in the truck I was conceived behind it. I'm like, oh my God, Mom. That was like a mic drop moment. But it was a true story. So like, I got married out here to my husband, Rob. And that's why, because I was conceived and, you know, get married. And you know, when I die, if I can get some ashes out here, that would be good too.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England, but it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. If you were captivated by the beauty of the outer dunes of Provincetown, then we have a digital exclusive treat for you as we visit the 3,000-acre Province Lands Reservation in Provincetown. Second only to Boston Common, this area is hailed as one of the oldest common lands in the country, and producer Dave Frazier takes us on a tour of this unique area of Cape Cod.
Well, I call it the outback of Provincetown because it's so vast. It's thousands of acres of dunes, beaches, and forest land that stretch as far as the eye could see, and it has a lot of wild animals. It's got these little dune shacks that has so much history. So we got history, we got culture, we have flora, we have fauna, we have dunes 110 feet tall surrounding us.
Don't miss this digital exclusive available online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Once known as the biggest and most powerful light on the East Coast, Cape Cod's oldest lighthouse, the Highland Light, sits perched 120 feet above the ocean in Truro, Mass. Moved to its present location in July of 1996 due to the eroding shoreline, the Cape's tallest lighthouse is now owned by the National Park Service as part of the Cape Cod National Seashore and still serves as an active aid to navigation to this day. Producer Dave Frazier takes us there.
The Highland Light was at one time the biggest and most powerful light on the East Coast. I think it's part of our American heritage, and I think people tend to be drawn to it for that reason, but I also tend to think there's an attraction of a lighthouse by the sea to most people, because people do climb it. It puzzles me a little bit because I'm an older guy, and when I was a little kid, this lighthouse and the other lighthouses were very big parts of our maritime heritage because global positioning systems and things like that hadn't come in yet, and the lighthouse is still critical to navigation. We are sitting right now on 42 north latitude and 70 west latitude. 2,900 miles dead east is Portugal. 840 is the Titanic. So there's 4 lights up here telling you how to navigate yourself around Cape Cod. Now why? Because we stick way out to sea. And if you don't have those kinds of navigational lights, then you could run into the Cape thinking you were headed for Boston, and many, many ships did. What you see is 2 balconies. The light in the lighthouse is swinging round and round so that it glows on the horizon all the time. And every 5 seconds it flashes bright. And if you're a ship captain coming in from Europe in a sailing ship and you're way out to sea, that 5-second flash identifies that you are on the Highland Light. Right now we're 65 feet above the ground, but the ground's 120 feet above the ocean, so we're 184 feet above the ocean. And this light can project 16.3 miles to seaward. There's no doors in the light room, because if you were to open that door 100 years ago and a high wind, might blow out the light. And if it blew out the light, big, huge, expensive light, and the ships coming in from Europe didn't pick up the light, that would be a disaster. So you go out the lower gallery, walk around, climb a ladder on the back. The original location, of course, is where that stone is in 1797. It's moved back 16 years ago, but a couple of years before that, the Coast Guard guys sitting in the lighthouse in a big storm suddenly found the banking to our left going over the side. The banking is steadily eroding. The lighthouse is as far back from the banking now as it was from the banking in 1857 when it was built. So they see this banking let go. And the Coast Guard says, this lighthouse is going over the banking and we're going to abandon it because we could put a light on a pole. And everybody gets together and they raise the money to move it back, to save it. And so you see it further back. I doubt that the ancient critical to navigation matches, but somehow the lighthouses are a connection with the past. And I think they're preserved for that reason. That's one of the reasons we try to preserve this one.
If you've ever visited Cape Cod, you've crossed over the Cape Cod Canal using one of 3 bridges. For decades, these steel structures have been a staple of daily life for both locals and visitors alike. But it wasn't always this way. There was a time when the land was connected before the creation of the widest sea level canal in the world, which turned Cape Cod from a peninsula into an island. Producer Dave Frazier takes us on a journey to explore the history of the canal and the impact that it had on the Cape.
For many of us who travel to the Cape, we feel as though we have not made it until we've crossed the bridge. The Sagamore, Bourne, and Railroad bridges have become the unofficial gateway to Cape Cod. But did you ever wonder about the canal that those bridges traverse? Today, it is an important waterway for navigators and a recreational resource for many. But the idea for the canal dates back to the 1620s.
There were 2 rivers here before, the Scusset and the Manamet, that both went inland, but kind of in different directions. And it had been a place where the Wampanoag would carry their canoes across from one river to the other when they were crossing from the Cape Cod Bay to Buzzards Bay. 1623, you had Miles Standish saying we should put a canal through here.
Meanwhile, the treacherous outer shores of Cape Cod stranded many ships, claiming nearly a wreck a week, according to historians, during the height of the commercial shipping era, giving the Outer Cape the ominous nickname of the Graveyard of the Atlantic.
This was basically an avenue of commerce. Ships had to go around here between Boston and New York. It was estimated that between 1626 and the mid-20th century, there were between 3,000 and 4,000 shipwrecks along Cape Cod's outer beach.
Attempts to build a canal had been unsuccessful until, in 1904, a wealthy financier named August Belmont moved ahead with a plan to connect the Monument and Scusset rivers. Along with civil engineer William Barclay Parsons, Belmont was confident they could succeed where others had failed. In June of 1909, construction started on the canal. Dredges of various sizes dug from each bay toward the middle. Bad weather, clay, and large boulders slowed the progress. A narrow-gauge railroad was installed to move dirt and equipment back and forth.
They finally come to this center point that they've set up, Foley's Dyke, and that's the place where they have the ceremony of the joining of the waters, and they cut through, and suddenly Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay are connected.
Seeing value in this waterway, the U.S. government purchased the canal in 1928 and began construction to widen and deepen it, as well as build 3 new bridges. Both bridges, the Sagamore and Bourne, are the same height as the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. Thousands of cars and trucks cross over them daily, more so in the summertime. The railroad bridge was the longest of its kind when it was built. Aided by counterweights, it takes 2.5 minutes for the center span to lower for approaching trains. Today, the Cape Cod Canal is not only a navigable waterway, snaking its way between Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay, it is a recreational resource for fishing, biking, and sightseeing.
It's a really important engineering marvel. It's still the widest sea level canal in the world, and it made Cape Cod an island. It wasn't a peninsula anymore.
And if you still haven't had enough of the beauty of the Cape, go online right now to nepm.org/connectingpoint for an exclusive digital extra as Dave Frazier offers a portrait of the landscape in this gorgeous video essay. And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. And please be sure to join us again every Thursday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. right here on New England Public Media for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Saidalis Bauer. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers. Connecting Point on NEPM is brought to you by Berkshire Museum in Pittsfield, presenting Art of the Hills, Visual Evidence, a juried art exhibition celebrating the creative culture of the region, highlighting the works of both emerging and established Berkshire-based artists. More information at berkshiremuseum.org.
We're on the road for 3 weeks.
This is where the Black Wall Street was.
My parents supported the massacre.
To follow the Muslim thread woven through the fabric of our country.
Midpoint, what?
Oh, Midpoint! There is a legendary Muslim here.
This is kind of where you asked me to marry you.
We're taking the Great Muslim American Road Trip.
The Great Muslim American Road Trip continues Tuesday at 10.
Get Valley Voice's Summer Shorts podcasts every Friday this summer. We've got local stories told by local folks, from Girl on the Train vibes to Southern Gothic drama. One short story every week on the Valley Voices Summer Shorts podcast. Find it at nepm.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
I am Mohammed and this is my wife Aliyah. We have 4 kids under the age of 6.
They're American, but they haven't seen their life represented on TV. On Let's Go Luna, one of the characters had a scarf, and that shows them that they're included, that they're connected, and that helps my kids so much.
PBS Kids is a partner to parents. They are focused on how to raise kids the right way, to look at the world as one.
One masterpiece mystery.
How well do we know those closest to us?
Have you noticed anything odd?
Women killed for less.
Take my advice.
When were you going to tell me?
Don't fall in love.
What am I doing?
You can't know everything.
Tell me what to do.
A new season of Grantchester on Masterpiece Mystery.
The new season of Grantchester begins Sunday at 9.
How would you like to double the impact of your gift to New England Public Media? Dozens of local businesses are matching their employees' contributions dollar for dollar, and one of those local businesses or institutions might be yours. Support the programs you love in a big way. Learn more at nepm.org.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
In early 2020, frontline workers and families in Wuhan, China, unite to confront an emerging crisis. An intimate portrait of love in a time of uncertainty. Wuhan, Wuhan, on POV.
An all-new POV Monday night at 10 or stream at NEP.